So I am a registered dietitian nutritionist. So a dietitian and a nutritionist are kind of the same thing, but kind of not. So when I was a little girl, there's me in the middle with my dad and my sister. I was actually living in Hawaii at the time, and we moved back to Iowa, and I just loved food, and I loved everything about food. As you can see, some of my favorites are up here. But I was especially interested in farming because my grandpa was a farmer. So I got to go out and combine, and I got to go see how corn was raised, but he also had pigs and cows and lots of different types of animals. And so I got really interested in that aspect of food, how food grows, how you get food from animals, and how farmers grow our food. And so that kind of was embedded in me as a little girl. And so as I grew up and I had all the delicious food, I was always interested to see where all this other types of food comes from. And sometimes it comes from our, fields here in Iowa, and sometimes it comes from other fields in different parts of the United States. And so I went to college after I grew up, and I went to college to be a doctor, and I really wanted to go into some type of medical field because I wanted to help people. And I wanted to help people not be sick. I wanted to help people, be healthy as possible. And I tried to kind of figure out, maybe that was a nurse, or maybe it was a doctor, or maybe it was a physical therapist. Maybe you've heard of all those different types of things. And so I thought, well, I think I'm going to be a doctor because I thought that would be the best way to help people. And as I was in school, I realized that I liked the doctor aspect, but I decided I thought I wanted to learn more about the nutrition that doctors probably need to know about because people need to eat the right food to stay healthy. So I took a class in college, and it was just a basic nutrition class. And during that class is when I really realized that I really wanted to help people through food. And so it kind of took me back to when I was younger and learning about where food comes from. But a lot of people just don't know where their food comes from. They don't know how food helps them be healthy and helps keep them living a good life and having all the good things happen to their bodies, to their brains, excelling in school and doing well, but then also eating fruits and vegetables, but also eating burgers and pizza and donuts and all those things that we like too. And so I decided kind of in the middle of college that I wasn't going to be a doctor, which is totally okay to figure that out, that maybe what you thought you went to school for wasn't exactly what you ended up being. And I kind of changed the way I was thinking about college, and I decided that I wanted to go into nutrition and not be a doctor. And so I actually decided to switch schools, and I went to a school that offered nutrition, and therefore became and did all the studies that I needed to do to become a registered dietitian. So a registered dietitian goes to kind of almost the same amount of school as a nurse or a physical therapist or someone that works in the medical field. And you just learn all about nutrition. You get to learn about nutrition for health, but you also get to cook, and you get to learn about how cooking and how things work when you bake bread and when you bake cookies, but also when you do lots of other things with food. It's a kind of combination of health, but it's also cooking and eating and all those combinations of what food can do for your life. And so after I got done with school, I had to do an internship. An internship is anywhere from 6 months to 2 years. And that's where I got to work with a variety of other dietitians. So I got to work with lots of different other dietitians that work in different areas of the world. Mostly in Iowa. I did some things in Nebraska, but a lot of times you can do dietetics and internships in other countries too. So you can do them. I know Puerto Rico has dietetic internships, and you can go overseas, but there's lots of great ones here in the United States as well. So there, I got to learn from lots of other dietitians. So I got to work with dietitians that work in a hospital. I got to work with dietitians that worked in school systems. I got to work with dietitians that worked in extension offices like Iowa State Extension. So I got to experience a lot of different dietitians and their work. So then I could figure out what kind of dietitian I wanted to be. So that was pretty cool to have that experience. And I got to learn how to actually be a dietitian, which is a really good opportunity. So as I kind of got into working, I started out after school. I worked in a hospital, which is funny because I went to school to be a doctor and work in a hospital. But then I ended up becoming a dietitian and working in a hospital. So I did that for a little while. And I worked with a variety of different people that had health needs. So I worked with people that had diabetes. If you've ever heard of that before, that's when your body is affected by blood sugars and the food that you eat and a variety of other things. And then I also worked with people that had heart health issues. So maybe had a heart attack, or maybe have high blood pressure, or maybe were just suffering from, a little bit of excess weight and they needed to work on some weight loss. So I had a variety of opportunities by working in the hospital. And I kind of got tired of that because it was hard for me to work with people that were always sick. I kind of wanted to work with people that were a little bit healthier or wanted some help before they got sick. And so that's where I started working at Hy-Vee. So that's been about 13 years ago. And I loved the idea of working in a grocery store because that's where all the food's at. That's where food means the most, is when we're grocery shopping. And I'm sure a lot of you have maybe gone grocery shopping with your family, or you grocery shop on your own. Maybe you like to cook, maybe you don't, maybe you're interested in it, but that's where you find those foods in the grocery store that you're interested in, or something that you might want to try, or just stuff that you really, really like as far as food. And so when I started with Hy-Vee, and Hy-Vees are all over in 8 different states, there is other grocery store chains in the whole United States that does have registered dietitians. There's some in New York and Philadelphia and all on the east side coast, and then there's a whole bunch on the west side, and there's some in Texas. So there's dietitians in lots of different grocery stores. I think Hy-Vee is one of the best places to work, so I'm very partial to here. But when I started here, I got to work with people in all different ages and all different health needs, and then just grocery shopping, helping people pick out the right kind of foods. I get to work with kids, which is always fun for me. We get to do lots of things in the schools that surround my stores. So I get to educate kids about nutrition. I get to sample out different products to people. As you can see in the little photo, we always have maybe what we call food experiences, where we try different foods, or we give out different samples of food so people can maybe try something new. I also get to go on TV, and that's a fun thing that I've gotten to do, is working with cooking, kind of like my own little cooking show, and also educating people that watch the morning news about different health topics that are important to lots of different people. And then I get to try different products. So I get to try all the new products that come out in the grocery store. I get to eat anything and everything that I could get my hands on, which is really fun. And I get to cook, and I get to try different recipes, and I get to experience different things as far as food. I work with a team of about 40 dietitians. So there's 40 of us that work for Hy-Vee. And we all support each other in different ways because we all have different things that we like to do. And that's kind of nice to work with a group of people that also like working with food and working with health. Some of my other things as outside of the grocery store, I get to go on lots of different adventures, which is really fun too. I get to experience the farm, which again, that kind of takes me back to when I was younger. I get to go on dairy tours, like the one in the middle. I got to go to a dairy farm outside of Chicago, learn about how farmers raise their cows and how they do their milk, because there are all different ways that people milk their cows and store their milk and what they use their milk for. These cows actually, their milk is used for butter, which I think is very interesting. Some cows' milk are used for cheese. So it's fun to see where those cows live and how they live. I get to do presentations. So up in the left-hand corner, that's a group of people that I'm actually giving a presentation to. So I talked to large groups of people about nutrition. I think my biggest group was about 500 people that I gave a presentation to, and we were talking about just healthy eating for aging, because everybody doesn't want to get old. I know I don't. I also get to do things in the top right-hand corner. I get to judge at the Iowa State Fair. I get to judge the great cookout that's done on the mall every year. So I get to try lots of different foods that are at that actual exposition. So that's fun. That's a fun part of my job. On the bottom right-hand corner, I get to podcast. I don't know if you all have heard of podcasts before, but I get to interview lots of different people and dietitians and talking about health and nutrition. This particular dietitian is from Florida, so I got to meet her when I was on a trip in Florida, which was very exciting. And podcasts are fun too. That's an area that maybe you didn't think a dietitian worked in, but sometimes we do. And then I actually wrote a book in the left-hand corner about being a dietitian. So there's lots of different things that a dietitian can do. Specifically here in the grocery store, it's more about just helping the people in my community and helping them live a healthier life and their best life. And just being open to trying and learning about food, where it comes from, how it helps your body, and just, how great food is. And there's no bad food. Food is, everybody eats, right? We all like food, and not one size fits all. So I do encourage everyone, since my audience is, probably, you like different types of food, but I'm always a big proponent of fruits and vegetables. And I know I don't eat enough fruits and vegetables, so I try to eat more, and I encourage people to eat more too, because they're so good for our brains and our bodies and just staying super healthy. So this year has been very different as a dietitian. Usually I'm out always in the store helping people, but since, the COVID has been here, a lot of my dietitian stuff has been over the internet and over Zoom. So I do consult patients and help patients with their nutrition needs via the computer, which has been very interesting and challenging, but it's also been a new kind of adventure for a lot of dietitians, that this is kind of where healthcare and helping people are going, is, virtually, and having that conversation over the computer. So if you're a person that wants to help people, but you're not quite sure where that place is for you, I'm always happy to talk to you more about being a dietitian. It's one of the funnest jobs, because if you love food, if you love to cook, if you're interested, it is an opportunity to enjoy all those great things. And I mean, who doesn't want to try fun stuff? So like this is, for example, this is a new fruit that we got in this week. This is a pomelo. So it's huge. It's like a big, huge grapefruit. I wish I could have cut it open for you, but it's hot pink in the inside, and it's sweeter than a grapefruit. So I'm super excited to cut it open and try it, and put it on my social media and stuff for the store, and share that with my customers and things like that. So again, it's only in season this time of year, and I wouldn't know if I wasn't a dietitian at a grocery store. So I get to share that with people too. So I hope that was kind of informative. If there's any questions, I know it's kind of fast and it was kind of a quick little talk, but I would love to take any questions if you have any questions about nutrition or food or anything like that.
Well, I'll start you off with one. You had mentioned an internship. Some are 6 months, some could be, I believe, up to 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Would you share with us what the difference would be, what you would do as an intern? Are those paid internships? Do you do those? Just give us some background on internships.
Sure. So internships are actually, you have to apply for them. So it's very much like if a doctor would go to medical school, or like a student would go to medical school, you have to apply for an internship. And they're all over, like I said, they do range in months. You do about the same thing in most of your internships. There's like kind of a baseline curriculum that you will do. So you would do certain classes that everyone has to do, but some of them have specialties. So some of them might be more focused in community. Some people might be focused in a hospital, some people might be focused in a school, but unfortunately, we pay for those internships. So it is like paying for another year or two of college is kind of how that goes. If you do a longer internship, you usually will end up with your master's degree, which is one nice bonus. If you do a shorter internship, you usually do not end up with a master's degree. I did a 6-month internship and I did not get a master's degree, but a lot of people do go on and do the longer internships.
Thank you. Who else has a question?
Or definitely can get a hold of my contact information, and I'm always happy to talk to you if you kind of are interested in food and nutrition. There's lots of other jobs too outside of just dietetics, and I could definitely, direct you and maybe, where you could maybe go with your interest in food and nutrition.
Do you see this as a career that is growing because people are so interested in their health and their diet and so on, that do you see areas where dietitians will be asked to be that perhaps they're not at this time?
I do, and our profession is growing very quickly. It is a profession that a lot of people, they love doctors and they love traditional medicine is what doctors provide, but they also like that more natural, holistic medicine, which dietitians can provide. And so maybe it's not medication, maybe it's more working with food and lifestyle. And I will say you're seeing dietitians pop up in lots of different places. It's not just a hospital, it's not just in a grocery store, but you're seeing dietitians in schools, you're seeing dietitians in businesses. There's a lot of people that are hiring, Google has a dietitian, which is crazy. And those places have dietitians. And then there's dietitians that work in marketing, to help market our food and to help advertise for our food. There's dietitians that create vitamins and minerals and supplements in bottles. There's dietitians that create products. Kind bars, if you've ever had a Kind bar or a Nature Valley granola bar, or if you've been to McDonald's has dietitians. So there's dietitians, and Taco Bell has 3 dietitians, which always amazes me. So there's dietitians in lots of different cool places, and it's just growing and growing more and more.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, again, if you all have any questions, just reach out to Megan or Mary Sue. They have my contact information. You can email me, and I'm happy to chat with you.
A brief moment about civil rights work for you all out there. And just introducing myself, my name is Joshua V. Barr. I am the director of the Des Moines Civil and Human Rights Department in Des Moines, Iowa. Been here for a little over 5 years. Don't know how much longer I got, but I've been here 5 years. And I have 3 degrees, which means I have a lot of student loan debt. So my advice to you all, if you plan to go to school, get a scholarship so you don't have to pay for that, because if you owe debt, you can't really be as free as you want. I would quit, but I got to pay some bills. So, I'll be back. See you tomorrow. Make sure you're everything. Not to say I don't like the work that I do, because I do. If I didn't, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, it's horrible, guys, get out. No, it's just not my goal today. But I have a law degree, so that means I am a lawyer. I also have an MBA from Penn State, which is a master's in business administration. And I have worked and lived internationally. I lived in Colombia, South America for a few years, and that probably had more of an impact on me than my 3 degrees combined. Just being able to engage with people from a different country and culture and live there for a while. Prior to my current position, I was a civil rights attorney for the state of South Carolina. and now I'm at my present position. Now, just so you know, civil rights work, I do have a badge. We enforce law. We're a law enforcement agency. We enforce equal opportunity laws in the city of Des Moines. And some of those equal opportunity laws are in regards to employment, housing, public accommodation. So employment is just about job. You cannot be discriminated against or treated differently on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, national origin, age, physical or mental disabilities, familial status, non-employment cases, and for creed, ancestry, sexual orientation, or gender identification. Now, just to give you a brief lesson on this, making sure that I cover, make sure I'm not being very I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying here. Races and color are literally about skin color and being treated differently by others on the basis of the amount of pigment or melanin in your skin. And religion is about the worship, and that even applies to people who don't believe in a God. Or in that case, for example, if you were an atheist and you were applying for a job and they said, well, I can't hire people that don't believe in God, unless it's an actual religious institution, they cannot do that. Religious institutions do have the ability to say if the job is pertinent, the belief in a God is pertinent to having the job, then they can, of course, do that. Sex is really about making sure you're not treating people differently on the basis of gender or sex. And that includes sexual harassment. Women and others should not be sexually harassed at the workplace. National origin is all about where you're born. So a quick example is if you are from Guatemala and you're trying to work here in the United States, if someone says, well, I can't hire you with that accent, you can file a national origin discrimination case. Our office investigates those cases. Housing is about trying to buy a home, rent a home, or trying to get credit for or get a mortgage for a place to live. In that event, you cannot be discriminated for those same reasons. Public accommodations are businesses that open themselves to the public. And that can be a public entity like a library, or that can be even Hy-Vee. They're not supposed to, which is a private business, but they're a private business that opens their services up to the public. Any private business, whether it's Burger King, Walmart, etc., they should be treating everyone equally and not singling people out because of race, sex, color, creed, religion, national origin, etc. Municipal practices is about government. Government can't discriminate against you, and if our city does, then you could file a case. But ultimately, our goal is to eliminate and prevent discrimination, but more importantly, to foster mutual understanding and respect amongst the residents and citizens of Des Moines. And we accomplish our mission of preventing and eliminating discrimination in investigations, which is what I just talked about, where if someone feels like they're discriminated against, they can file in our office. But also education and outreach. We do a lot of engagement with the community, giving out free things, let them know we're here, let them know we exist. We do trainings on these things. I don't know if this is necessarily considered a training. Maybe this is educational outreach per se. But I'm also educated. So, and then community engagement, same thing. We're just out in the community letting people know we're there. Now, in the event that we do an investigation and find out that someone has been discriminated against and we're unable to resolve that through mediation, where we sit people down and talk through it and see what resolution we can come up with, we then proceed with litigation. Litigation is where we go to court and sue on that person's behalf for their rights to be either reinstated or protected, or sometimes just get a big check. So we do have people that win money because they were discriminated against. In America, just so you know, that we're the way I try to redeem people is by giving them a paycheck. Hey, sorry that happened to you. Here's $10,000. Okay, so we do a lot of testing as well, where we test to see if, in particular, housing entities are discriminating or treating people differently. So do this a number of ways. Now, a lot of this stuff I'm talking about is the old way. That's a lot of the things that we've been doing as civil rights agencies historically for years. And, you know, the investigation and doing trainings and doing community engagement. But if you all have been paying attention to what's happening in the world for the past, you know, I don't know how old you all are, but I'll say the past 12 years, there's a lot of strife going on in regards to in our country and everything that's happening, a number of protests and people, you know, still feeling like based on color of skin or gender or national origin that they don't have the ability to succeed and advance in life, and people complaining about your political ideology is different from mine, therefore I hate you forever. There's a lot of stuff going on in the world. So one of the things that I strive to do, and I challenge you all to do this as well, is when you get a job, don't just accept the job as is. Your job is to use your talent, skills, and passions and put your full self into the work. And that's something that I've done. A lot of things that I do, I do a lot of, we've done a symposium, and this is me at our Human Rights Symposium. Some of those seats are empty, but at that symposium, we had, 700 people. We sold out the event. That might have just been a session, so don't judge the seats. But in addition to that, we do a lot of community engagement. We do community dialogues where we have people sit and talk through issues to see what can we do to create a tighter community, a community that works better together. And we utilize that to change laws. And we've done something called Bridging the Gap, where we got community together to vote on issues that matter to them. And we utilize that as a launching pad to present to our city council recommendations from the community and changes that we can make so people feel like they have an opportunity to succeed and to make our community safer. And so through those discussions, we've been able to implement new laws. One of the newest laws we got implemented was source of income protection. And I should have actually had that in my presentation slide, but I'm still getting used to it. Source of income is about discrimination for persons trying to get housing and they have government benefits such as Social Security disability or Social Security or Section 8 vouchers or Veteran Affairs benefits. You can't discriminate against a person for using government benefits in order to get housing. And the reason why we deem that important is because nowadays discrimination really just isn't in your face as much as it used to be. People have gotten sophisticated. I know not to say the N-word, but I know how to say, hey, we don't want Chicagoans in our neighborhood, which is same thing, kind of code word for, hey, we don't want this certain group. And so what we've tried to do is we try to evolve with the times, making sure that we're still protecting people's right and opportunity to be everything they desire to be, that there are no barriers put in place because of characteristics that people cannot control or characteristics that have historically held persons down. So, you know, another thing we do in addition to changing laws, which is what I'm big on changing laws and policies, we also try to change hearts and minds. And one of the things we've done is we did something entitled Breaking Bread, Building Bridges, where we match people up based on their differences to have dinner together over the course of a few months. And we did a documentary on that. And we, so they had 2 dinners in public. Then they had we had a discussion on a documentary about race, and then after that they went, if they were comfortable, and everybody was, that's why we do a few sessions in public first, they were to go into that person's home and have a casual dinner with that person, and then 2 to 3 weeks later they flip it and go into the other person's home and have a casual dinner however you normally eat dinner. We documented that, and we made a documentary, and we won an Emmy for it. So, and civil rights officers aren't known for winning Emmys. Just in case you don't know, Emmy is the highest award you can receive from the National Academy of Television Sciences and Arts. And we won an Emmy just last year, first Emmy for the city, and probably might be the first Emmy for any civil rights office. So What I did was I brought all my talents and passions to the table. I didn't just accept my job as is. I really took it and tried to take it to the next level. I'm a creative person. I don't believe in following the status quo, and I believe that if I'm here on earth, I'm going to try to make changes, just like some of these people. Even during the summer, in the midst of all the protests happening in Des Moines, I was right there on the front lines, engaging the young people, trying to talk to them about, what's important to them. I wouldn't say I was successful, but I was there. And that's really what I wanted to be, just be there and not be watching it on TV, but really be in the midst, talking to them, etc. As I close out, again, I'm talking about civil rights work, but you also just need to find out who you are. And as I stated, civil rights work has evolved. We're now talking about equity and inclusion, but the world is evolving as well. So we have a lot of technology is on the rise. There's a plethora of pollutions and plastics, and you dealing with global warming. And you had the person from Hy-Vee speaking about being a dietitian, and trust me, that is very important nowadays. We have, a number of diabetes on the rise, heart disease, a lot of issues. And the thing is your classroom talking about these things? And if they're not, you're going to have to get it outside the classroom. The world is evolving, is the classroom. So, what do all these people have in common? Besides being of African descent, anything else? Check the chat. Just anybody know? Let's see. Somebody said hi to me. Hi. But these people, just so I'm making sure I'm saving time. One of the things they all 5 of these people have in common. I hope you know who they are. But these 5 people, they're rule breakers for justice. They decided not to follow the rules as traditionally held to them. And that's what I challenge you all to do, is don't just accept things as they are. Because if Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass would have accepted rules as they are, they would have been enslaved for life. If Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks, et cetera, had accepted things as they are, we still live in a segregated society where I wouldn't even have the opportunity to speak to you all today, and I'd probably be cleaning somebody's house. Not to say that there's no honor in cleaning, because I want to make sure I'm clear on that. But these people challenge it, but the thing is, if you want to change the world, you have to learn the rules and then bend the rules and shape them to how you want the world to be. So my challenge for you all is to think not just about civil rights work, but just how do you view the world and what do you want the world to be like? And are you willing and bold enough to speak out? Because in doing the work that I do, I have to speak out sometimes, and it makes people uncomfortable. Oh my God, he's talking about what happened on January 6th. We should all be talking about what happened on January 6th. Yeah, and that makes people uncomfortable, but I'm willing to sacrifice, my paycheck and my position to make the world a place where it's accepting of all people, just like all these people were on the screen. So there's still a lot of work that we still have to do in regards to civil rights work. There's a lot of hurdles that are put in place for certain groups, women, persons of African descent, indigenous groups, et cetera. And we have to make sure that if we're living up to the Pledge of Allegiance, to liberty and justice for all, we have to really make sure that everyone has the opportunity to succeed. And don't just go to school to learn, but you go to school to make sure that you're, knowledge is not the goal, but action. So make sure you're tapping into what your talents, your passions are, and getting that non-education education as well. There's certain things that they aren't teaching you all in school, such as understanding local government and how local government shapes you. Local government affects you more than any other form of government. It is not taught in school. You need to make sure you understand capitalism, how capitalism works. It's the other than oxygen, it's the other thing that floats everywhere. The fact that I'm able to connect you all via Zoom is part of capitalism and technology, and having this computer and sitting at this table, this chair. You need to make sure you understand those things. What's a republic versus a democracy? Understanding finance, stocks and bonds, and how to start a business, and buying real estate, income versus wealth, debt. We talked about that earlier with my student loans, and time management, discipline and scheduling. You need to make sure you understand those things, because those are the things that will ultimately help you all thrive. And it's my goal doing civil and human rights work to make sure that those opportunities are presented to you all so that you can be all that you can be. Because each of you has a seed inside of you waiting to bloom, and you need to figure out what that seed is inside of you, that passion of your heart, that talent, that skill that you have, and utilize this time in school to tap into those things. Because once you hit 18, they expect you to have it all together. And I didn't have it all together at 18. I didn't really get it all together until 32. That was 8 years ago. So, and even then, I'm still learning, growing, and evolving, and trying to bloom more and more into who I was truly meant to be. So that is my challenge to you all. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and open to any questions.
I'm going to ask you to elaborate. I really like the idea that you had them focus on what your passion is, and you gave some things that they should learn about. But what other tips can you give them to really discover their passion, their interest, and their ability to focus on it?
Great question. My central advice, and I'll use myself as the example, is always go back to when you were in elementary school, when you were really young. What did you really love to do that your parents have to pull you away from and say, boy, you don't get over here and go to bed or come eat? You know, those are those things that really kind of define who you are. And you know, a lot of times if you go to school, especially as you enter middle school and high school, they just start to stack stuff on you. Some of those things you never use again once you get older. Parallelogram, Pythagorean theorem. Yes. So I see baby, I see y'all laughing. Yeah. The adults are agreeing with me, y'all. The adults are agreeing with me. So what I did, and I said about 32. When I was 29 years old, again, I left the country, and I was really trying to find myself and really trying to understand who I was. And as I came back to the United States, I started working, and I recognized that, you know, just working a job wasn't going to fit me. I need to find out who I am. And so I thought back on when I was young and when I was in Columbia, the things I did there. And number one, I've always been a history lover. I believe that, you know, the past is ever present, and therefore, I used to love reading history as a kid, and I used to sit and read encyclopedias all day, like World Book Encyclopedia. I used to just literally read that all day, and I had to think back on those things because, you know, as I got older, you know, you do those things. Hey, you're a nerd. You ain't black. And like, like, you know, all of a sudden, you know, the peer pressure comes in, and sometimes, especially people like me, sometimes we dumb ourselves down just so we can fit in, because we're also human beings. We're social. We're social creatures. We want to fit in. We want to make sure that we're not alone in life. But I really tell people to reflect on those things that really bring you joy, that really brought you happiness when you were young, and use those things to shape yourself. I was always very creative, and I use that creativity to create a documentary, getting awards for it, etc. So just reflect back on who you were when you were young, before the world tried to shape you into who you wanted to be, who they told you should be, and utilize those things to kind of draw you back, and utilize that to shape yourself as you move forward. I think, you know, we have Anne on, and she's talking about being a dietitian. There's some people that love to cook. There's some people that really love nutrition, and they love you know, the mix of athletics and nutrition, dietitian, nutritionist things, and you can utilize those things to really shape a career out of that. There are no limits. Not everything in life has been invented. Not everything in life has been done, and everything certainly needs an enhancement and to be made better. You know, we're still using railroads here, but if you go to Europe, they're using you know, those express. I think it's got a certain name. I'm forgetting the name. I had it until I started talking, but you know, they're using those express trains, and they're zooming all across the country. There's still so much that we can do as a country and as a people, but you really got to reflect on who am I on the inside? What are those passions that speak to my heart? What are those things when they come on TV that really speak to me? And not everybody's meant to be a YouTuber. I'm sorry, that didn't exist. So I go to school and like, I want to be a YouTuber. I'm like, hey, everybody want to be a YouTuber? Like, so that's my advice. To Anne or somebody else may have some advice too. I think that's a good question.
I echo everything you say about finding your passion, finding your joy, because you have to do it for the rest of your life, and you have to put your whole heart and soul into it. Otherwise, you're not going to like it, and you're going to move on to something else. So I love your words of wisdom, Joshua. That's on point.
Thank you. And again, you won't find, you know, it's not going to come to you in an instant. Again, I had to get lost in another country to find my way. But I think, you know, some of the people on the call, they're definitely younger, and so you got time. You got time to make mistakes, get degrees that maybe just added to your student loan debt, and you're not using it as much, but they all come and help in the end, and especially in the thought process. But yeah, just if you don't know what you want to do, I still advise you to make sure you're doing good enough in school, because you don't want to make any mistakes that you can't really recover from. And right now, I think some of these young people, right now, they're judging you by your GPA. When you get our age, they judge you by your credit score. So just make sure you're doing good enough so you can keep getting ahead, because you are being judged at all times with certain metrics and numerical systems.
I am surprised no one has asked you about the badge you carry, because that was news to me. I did not know that in civil rights you carried a badge. Can you expand upon that a little bit?
Well, a badge just, you know, means that you know, pledge to follow, you know, enforce certain laws and make sure that you're enforcing justice for all. So it's a neat little thing. I don't pull it out very often. Like, I don't have it on me right now, but it's kind of cool. Sometimes I go into a courthouse and, you know, you got to pull out your badge and the cop say, "Hey, you're a law enforcement?" Yes, I am. Hey, this ain't what we did. Yeah, we just, our job is to enforce equal opportunity laws and make sure everyone on this call, because everyone in some shape, form, or fashion is, you know, you are of a certain race, even though it's a social political construct. You know, gender, you come from a certain place. It's our job to make sure we protect everyone's rights. And so we enforce the equal opportunity laws, and my staff has a badge. We flash it when necessary. So.
If no one else has any questions for Joshua, we can finish up. We just have a poll for everyone to do. I'll go ahead and launch that. If you were here last time, it's the same exact poll that you filled out last time. So you don't necessarily have to fill it out twice, but you definitely can if you want to. But thank you to both Anne and Joshua for your words today. I really appreciated learning from both of you. And just thinking about echoing the words of finding something that you really enjoy doing and you love doing, and that's your passion in life, because I felt the same way. I had no idea what I wanted to do for a very long time. I went to college, I got my bachelor's, I was working at Target as a manager, and that was not what I loved doing. And then the position opened up here with Extension and working with 4-H, and I was a 4-H'er when I was little. So, I mean, thinking back on it, that was definitely something I was passionate about, and I got to come back and give back to the organization that gave me so much when I was younger. So you never know when it's going to find you.
I totally agree, and you're the classic example. Think back and then find and go forward. Never too late. And my advice to all the young people is don't waste your 20s, because that's huge advice. Do something. Do something. So.
I agree. 20s you gotta make something happen and don't waste those years.
Yeah.
Lots of things happen in your 30s and your 40s that
Yes.
you should go back.
Seriously, no, it is so important. I think people don't get that. Like, it's really you can make. I mean, don't mess up high school, of course, but your 20s, you really just build off of that as you move forward. And that's the best advice one of my roommates gave me, who was like about 5 years older than me when I was in college. He was like, "Man, whatever you do, don't waste your 20s." And it was the best thing to happen because I did, although I was, like Megan, not knowing where I was really trying to go, I just kept moving. And by the time I figured it out, at least I can look back and be, oh, well, he's obviously not an idiot or a criminal. So like, yeah, come on in. So,
Joshua, I love learning from you too. So thank you for sharing your story and all that you do for our community.
Thank you. You as well. I believe dietitians are more important now than ever with all the health concerns and COVID-19, et cetera. I have my kiwi right here to eat as soon as it's over. It has full of zinc. Help me.
Love it. Yes, and fiber. You're rocking it. I love it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much. Mary Sue, do you have anything to add before we're finished up here? It looks like a number of you have completed the poll already, which is great. Thank you for that.
Yep. No, thank you both Anne and Joshua. This was very good. We planned this, but I think the advantage is we get to learn about these different careers also. Even though we may be committed to one career, it is nice to know about learning about other careers. And so those of you on the call that are much younger, this is a great opportunity that when I was young, I didn't know what other people did. Yeah. So be sure and get your questions asked. If not now, certainly contact Megan or I, and we will certainly follow up. So thank you all.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you for watching. For more information on Polk County 4-H programming, connect with us by email at polk4h@iastate.edu or by phone at 515-957-5760.